there as well. It kicked out the back. Now Elliott can face the goal. He can give it to...
August 21st, 2022. A date that still stings for Carlton supporters. A day that promised redemption but ended in heartbreak. The round 23 showdown with arch rivals Collingwood wasn't just another game. It was a chance to bury years of pain and return to finals football for the first time in 9 seasons. The rivalry itself runs deep. Generations of bitterness, bragging rights, and blue versus black and white pride. Across 261 encounters, the two clubs had gone blow for blow, almost perfectly even in their win-loss record. But for Carlton, this one meant everything. Victory would signal the club's long-awaited resurgence. Defeat, however, would bring anguish unlike anything the navy blue faithful had felt in years. To truly understand why this game in particular meant so much to the Carlton Football Club, we must first bring you back to the beginning of the season. After 8 seasons in the bottom half of the ladder, Carlton set out to prove that they meant business. The 2021 off-season was one of change, as the Blues strengthened their list and redefined their identity. They secured Adam Cerra from Fremantle, traded for Lewis Young from the Bulldogs, and signed George Hewitt via free agency. The club also parted ways with coach David Teague, appointing Michael Voss, a former Brownlow medalist, after a thorough selection process. With a refreshed roster, renewed belief, and a proven leader at the helm, Carlton entered 2022 determined to make their mark. After an average 2021 season, where Carlton recorded 8 wins and finished 12th on the ladder, the Blues, even with their improved roster, were not expected to amount to much in 2022. Internally, however, the Blues knew what they were capable of. New coach Michael Voss would say, "There's some good talent here, and that's one of the real exciting parts of being able to coach this football team. For me as a competitor, you're always trying to get the best version of yourself, and we're not just here to be a part of a group, we're here to be the best." Michael Voss's competitive outlook heading into the 2022 season gave Carlton fans every reason to believe. On paper, the Blues finally looked like a genuine final side. After years of struggle, they had used their high draft picks wisely, building a list stacked with talent that was ready to deliver. At the back, Jacob Wiedering, the 2015 number 1 pick, had become a defensive pillar and former best and fairest winner, anchoring a structure that gave Carlton confidence and stability. In the midfield, Patrick Cripps and Sam Walsh led the charge. Cripps, already a 3-time club champion and one of the competition's elite, and Walsh entering his 3rd season after a brilliant start to his career. Together, they embodied Carlton's contested ball identity and drive through the corridor. And up forward, the twin towers of Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow loomed as a nightmare for opposition defences. Mackay had claimed the 2021 Coleman medal with 58 goals, whilst Curnow, returning from 2 injury-ruined years, was eager to remind the league of his talent. With strong depth players supporting the Stars and a new belief under Voss, the message was clear. It's largely important not to cap where we want to be. The Blues were ready to show the world that they were capable. Ready to show the world that they are still the juggernauts of the AFL. Ready to show the world that they have what it takes to make some real noise. And the fans were ready to enjoy the ride. Carlton began the 2022 season in brilliant fashion. A round 1 win over Richmond, ending an 11-game losing streak against their arch-rivals, signalled that this was not the Carlton of old. The Blues backed it up with hard-fought victories over the Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn, making it their best start since 2012. Led by captain Patrick Cripps, the midfield was dominant, driving a fast, high-possession brand of football that gave the forwards endless chances. Charlie Curnow rediscovered his spark, booting 8 goals in 3 games, whilst Harry Mackay added 7, forming a twin tower threat few defences could handle. In defence, Jacob Wiedering stood firm, and Sam Docherty's composure and creativity gave the Blues structure and class. Despite their impressive start, Carlton's performances raised doubts about their credibility. In their wins over the Bulldogs and the Hawks, the Blues showed worrying second half fade-outs. Against the Dogs, a 35-point lead shrank to just 12, and against the Hawks, a 41 margin was reduced to just 1. Whilst these lapses could be excused for a young side still learning to handle pressure, they raised a key question. Did Carlton have the mental toughness to stay composed when momentum shifted? The talent was clear, but the Blues still needed to prove that they could close out games when it mattered most. Carlton's next 3 games brought the Blues back to earth. 2 away losses to the Suns and Fremantle sandwiched a win against Port Adelaide that featured another poor second half, creating a 50-point lead that dwindled down to 3 at the final siren. To regain momentum, Carlton needed to address one glaring issue: their sluggish third quarters. Through the opening 6 rounds, the Blues consistently fell flat after halftime. Their best third-term return came in round 1 against Richmond, where they kicked just 2 goals and 3 behinds. Defensively, they were exposed, conceding nearly 5 goals against per third quarter on average across that stretch. And between rounds 3 and 5, the Blues managed only 3 goals combined in the third term, a worrying trend that regularly invited opponents back into the game. These lapses raised serious questions about the team's mental resilience and coaching adjustments. If Carlton couldn't lift their intensity after the main break, they risked undoing all the progress that they had sparked hope early in the season. Carlton really needed to respond in a big way. And respond in a big way they did. 4 wins on the trot left the Blue Baggers in 3rd place on the ladder after round 10. Big wins over North Melbourne and Adelaide showcased a new look Blues, firing in the premiership quarter. 7 goals in the third term against the Kangaroos and 6 against the Crows displayed promising bursts of footy that had the AFL nervous. After winning by 30 points against the Giants, the Blues were able to come out on top against their biggest test yet in the Sydney Swans on a Friday night. This had the Baggers at 8-2 after 10 games, and the AFL media began to seriously consider the Navy Blues as genuine premiership contenders. Carlton's midfield continued to dominate games. Clearances were regularly won by Walsh and Cripps, whilst new recruits Chera and Hewitt contributed to the Baggers' ball-winning ability. Patrick Cripps was displaying football unlike anything that the footy world had seen. By round 10, the Blues skipper was the front runner for the prestigious Brownlow medal, with what turned out to be 16 votes and 5 3-vote games. The defensive masterclass of players such as Wiedering and Doherty were especially important in the Blues' hot start. In Carlton's 8 wins, the defence only allowed 78 points per game and 73 points per game in their current 4-game win streak. Key forwards like Taylor Walker and Lance Franklin were kept quiet in their matchups, clearly outplayed by the Twin Towers in Carlton's forward 50. Harry Mackay was continuing his Coleman medal form from the previous season, kicking 27 goals in just a little under half the season. However, it was his partner in crime who stole the show. After only 4 games in 2 seasons, Charlie Curnow was evidently on a redemption tour. 33 goals in 10 games were enough to lead the Coleman medal tally, and after a big 6-goal game against the Swans, it was clear that Curnow was not done. Carlton looked strong in all facets, but the question had to be asked: could they continue this dominance against the top sides of the competition? Up to round 10, Carlton had only played 2 eventual top 6 sides, and 4 of their wins came against bottom 6 teams. Were Carlton really premiership contenders, or were they just flat track bullies? The second half began with a Sunday game against a classic foe. Despite kicking the final 3 goals of the match, the Pies came out victorious by 4 points, which was surely the only time that Carlton would be beaten by less than a goal against their arch rivals. This loss kicked off an up and down period for the Blues. After their bye in round 12 through to round 19, the Blues alternated wins and losses. Victories against West Coast, GWS and Fremantle were offset by defeats to Richmond, Geelong and other top sides. Carlton showed that they could dominate the midfield and forward line, but struggled to maintain intensity against elite competition. And with a growing injury problem to Carlton's key defenders, the defensive structure was becoming an issue. 7 key defenders suffered unplanned absences in the middle part of the season. Sam Durden, who was recruited in the mid-season draft specifically to cover the club's key defender injury list, was ironically injured in his debut. Despite this, the midfield and forward line kept Carlton competitive, with the biggest loss in this stretch being 30 points in round 18 to the Cats. With a month left in the season, Carlton held their fate in their hands. Sitting 7th on the ladder with a 12-6 record, they needed only a win or a draw in the next 4 games to reach finals for the first time since 2013. Their next game against Adelaide seemed a golden opportunity, but Carlton faltered, failing to convert midfield dominance into victory. Carlton now only had 3 chances to make their mark and go into finals, but unfortunately for the Blues, their last 3 opponents were teams that were in the top 6. Further losses to Brisbane, followed by a fade out to the D's, where they led by 8 with 3 minutes remaining, meant that the Blues had only 1 game to redeem themselves. A Sunday twilight clash against the old foe in Collingwood. And with star midfielder Sam Walsh out with injury, it would be a tough ask. Over 88,000 fans packed the G, ready to watch one of the biggest games in history between these two powerhouses. Here we go. Collingwood started the game quickly, with a goal to steal side bottom in the first 3 minutes of the game. But the game soon turned into an arm wrestle between both sides. Despite the Pies leading the inside 50 count 13-6 midway through the first, Carlton's backline held strong, but the rest of the squad couldn't capitalise. 2 further goals to Crisp and Ginnivan on the eve of quarter time had the Pies leading the exchange by 20 points at the break. The Blues needed to calm their nerves. Carlton were being beaten through their shaky kicks in their forward half and giving the ball away to their opponent. Michael Voss looked to rally his troops and recoup for the second quarter. Matthew Owi's goal in the opening 2 minutes of the second term sparked hope, and a goal to Mackay gave the Blues some reward for their clearance and midfield ascendancy that was evident in the quarter. Despite piling on pressure with 10 consecutive inside 50s, the Blues let the defence slip, and 2 quick goals to the Pies brought the margin back to over 3 goals. The second quarter was much better for the Baggers, winning the possession battle and dominating the inside 50 count. But again, the Pies recorded better forward half kicking efficiency to lead by 19 points at the break. This was it, 1 half left to keep the season alive. Despite being poor in the premiership quarter earlier in the season, Carlton knew that they had to make this one count. And make it count, they did. A goal to Chera in the opening minute started an avalanche of goals from the Navy Blue boys. 2 goals to Chera, Curnow and Motlop, as well as goals to Doherty and Mackay, had the Carlton faithful screaming at the top of their lungs. The stoppage game and contested footy were the stuff of dreams, generating 8 goals to 1 in the third to create a 24-point lead and a serious momentum swing that would surely get the Blues home. Better yet, throughout history, the Pies had never defeated Carlton when losing by more than 20 points at the final change. This is it. All the Blues had to do was continue the momentum and play defensive footy to end the game. Surely the Blues could do this and make finals for the first time since 2013.
McCreary! Wowee!
But unfortunately for Carlton, the Pies rallied. It was do or die. The Pies' new game style involved excessive handballs generating opportunities, and the Blues couldn't control the counter-attack. 3 of Collingwood's goals in the fourth term, to this point, were launched from defensive half-chains. The momentum was swayed heavily towards the Magpies, and it didn't look like the Blues could stop it at all. All the Blues needed to do was not turn the ball over in their defensive 50 and stop Collingwood's counter-attacks. It was a tough task, but with their season on the line, the Blues needed to do whatever they could to win the game.
Ginnivan's there, Elliott's there as well. It kicked out the back. Now Elliott can face the goal. He can give it to Gideon and go for the lock. He kicks the goal. Collingwood are in front. Collingwood are in front. Can you believe it?
Jamie Elliott. Another defensive 50 chain led to the Pies' small forward kicking his second goal of the game, and Collingwood's 5th in a row to lead by a single point with a minute and a half to go. Despite both sides having 6 scoring shots in the last, the Blues were wasteful, and after a final minute 42 filled with blunders from Cripps and Durden, the siren blew and ended Carlton's season. After being in the top 8 for the whole year, the Blues dropped to 9th in the final round, with the Western Bulldogs leapfrogging them by a percentage of 0.6. A team that started 8-2 were now watching from their homes in September. Despite the heartbreak, individual brilliance shone. Charlie Curnow claimed the Coleman medal with 64 goals. Harry Mackay kicked 45, and Patrick Cripps earned 29 Brownlow votes to win the Charlie, albeit controversially. And Jacob Wiedering and Sam Doherty were defensive stalwarts. The 2022 season was a step forward, revealing the potential of a young, talented Carlton squad. But the Navy Blue faithful will never forget the day of August 21st, 2022.